Hey, everybody. I'd like to welcome all of you to another episode of Diffusing the WMSCOG. Today, I'm very excited because we get to interview a good friend of ours, Amy, who's an ex member of the WMSCOG. I can't wait to hear her story. And we also have Marissa, who's been on the channel multiple times now, who's also a good friend, and she's actually going to help co host this episode. So I'm very thankful to have you on as well. That being said, Amy, I just want to ask you to introduce yourself a little bit for the people that might be watching this.
Yeah, so my name is Amy. I was a part of the World Mission Society Church of God for just short of a decade. So I joined in 2015 and I left 2024. So just last July.
Okay. And what location were you in?
So when I first was baptized, I was in the Pueblo location. I transferred to Colorado Springs, and I spent most of my time I spent in Colorado Springs, and then my last year I spent in Arizona and Phoenix.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so how did you get involved or how did you get recruited at first with the WMSCOG?
Yeah, so I feel like everyone's story is so unique, especially because a lot of members I feel are younger, but I was a little bit older when I was recruited. So um, it was in 2014, and at the time I was a single mom and I was working, living alone with my son, and then I was going to school. So I started dating. And when I found my boyfriend, who's now my husband, he was a part of the church. So we had known each other for a couple years because we went to college together, but nothing was serious. So when we decided to be serious, he said, "Hey, so I want to tell you about this church that I'm a part of, and it's really important to me that you come to this if we be together." So uh, this was in 2014. So at the beginning, he would bring me Bible verses, and I grew up like very religious. My family is part of a lot of um, Christian churches. I have family who are pastors. So I was kind of like educated a little bit. I even turned down like an opportunity to go to a Christian university. So
Oh, wow.
um, at the time in my life, it was a big transition. So I had left my son's father, and I had been single for a few years. So um, at that point, I was looking for somebody at the same time, kind of like searching for my purpose. My, there was something inside that I was looking for. Um, and I was always open about the Bible. So I would consistently go to my friends or my family and ask questions because I was a very scientific person. So when he came to me and told me about the church, he kind of like approached situations and doctrine, and I wasn't for it.
Really? What'd you say at first?
I mean, I think the first thing he said was like, "Hey, did you know Christ came a second time?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh." Like this, like no, no. So he went in very strong. And at first he would like bring a doctrine to me and I'd have a question.
Mm.
And it didn't always make sense, so he'd take my question back to the church. And then, like, the next time we'd see each other, he'd bring the answer to me. But this continued for like, this was end of 2014, and I wasn't baptized until April. So, a good like 5, 6 months that I was going
Yeah.
like back and forth with him with doctrine. Um, there was one time before I was baptized. Sorry, I'm gonna tell the story. So, he had came and he's like, okay, I'm gonna bring you to this church. And he was in Pueblo, so it was a different city. So, um, I lived in Colorado Springs, so he had to drive to a different city, right? And then you have to go to church in the different location.
Right.
So he was like, I'm gonna bring you to this church, and it's in Colorado Springs. It's a third day, so we're about to go to service. So he shows up at my apartment, and he's like, so I'm gonna tell you that the women have to wear veils.
Uh,
Yeah, he's got to warn you.
So I was like, okay. So he shows me the verse, and he drives from Pueblo to Colorado Springs. This is like what, a 45-minute drive, right? And he shows me the verse, and I was like, nope, I'm not wearing a veil.
I'm not wearing
that's
that.
hilarious.
I'm not going. I'm not going. So I didn't go, and he was kind of upset. There was this pressure because he still had to go to this church in the
He had to
service
go.
in Colorado Springs was as a visitor, but then he had no guest to bring with him.
Right.
Yeah, so I would say like the beginning of me going into the church, there was like definitely some pressure. Um, But I would say the turning point to actually get me to be baptized, there was a lot of pressure in Pueblo. I would
Mm.
definitely say the deacon and the sister at the time, even as a contact, they made it well known like that I seemed um, like ignorant, that this was right in front of me. Like, why would you miss the opportunity? They would say that as a contact, like in front of other people, like make me feel like, why are you not baptized yet? So there was, I feel like, a little bit more pressure and openness about the pressure,
Yep.
that I didn't see as a red flag. I definitely felt it, and I waited to
Right.
be baptized, but it it was there. So um, what finally made me be baptized was my husband's, so my mother-in-law came to visit, and she was baptized. And when I heard that she was baptized, I kind of felt like, why not? So we were in Denver. At this time, I'm still a Pueblo member, so we were in Denver, and I just chose to be baptized. At this time, I didn't necessarily believe that who An Sang Hong was. I didn't 100% believe that he was God in flesh. And I at that point had no idea that that God the Mother was in the flesh. Like at that point, no idea. No idea. So I definitely feel there was some pressure from the family. Like, why not? Like if she did it, we're together, may as well get baptized and continue to study. Because that's what they say a lot, right?
Right.
Is, just be baptized and continue to study.
Yeah, they
Uh,
make it like that's the first step, and then you need to like continue after that. So just get baptized and then
yeah. So
They they,
I even
they want
remember,
that.
go ahead.
I'm I'm sorry, but it just makes me think like how they are so desperate to get like that, that entry in the book of life, in their record.
Hmm.
So like even if you don't believe, like I've mentioned in other videos before, I literally remember missionaries like getting ready to baptize someone, and did you study about God the Mother? Oh no. Okay, study about it next time. Did you study about Passover?
Yes.
Kinda. All right, we'll study about it next time. Repeat after me.
Hmm.
Stuff like that. And it just makes you think
Hmm.
like these people care about the numbers, and even the
Hmm.
pressure to get baptized. Like just hearing you say that stressed me out because I literally remember so many members, we were taught that, especially the leaders, like, put pressure on these members. And it's almost like a way of like reverse psychology. What they were doing to you is by like making you feel like you're an outsider compared to everyone that's already been baptized, and that's the right thing to do. And oh, look at you, you're not baptized, and there's got to be something wrong with you. Something is wrong with you, that's why you don't get baptized. And it's just so telling. Every time I hear a different member's story, these kind of things stand out to me. It's like red flags right off the jump. But anyway, continue with your story, Amy.
Yeah, it's so funny how like once you step back and leave, you're like, man, how many red flags?
Exactly.
But so yeah, this is kind of where it gets a little like where everything I think kind of shift because I was baptized, but a week later I found out I was pregnant. So my husband and I, we weren't married yet, but I can definitely say that there was a shift, you know. So we he said we should go to the church and ask the deacon at the time what we should do. And the deacon said, well, of course, you just, you should get married, but why don't you wait until we go to Denver and then pastor can bless your marriage. So the pastor at the time was Pastor Daniel Park. So we went to Denver and we met with Pastor Daniel after service and said, hey, we want to get married. Can you bless our marriage? What should we do? And he said, yeah, just go to the courthouse. That's fine. And that was it. So just within like I was baptized April 25th. Um, April 25th. And sorry, I'm gonna turn this phone down. Way to interrupt the interview, but before this phone starts, let me just throw it out of the room.
No
It's okay.
problem. Take your time.
It's not, it's my son's phone. I was like, hold on, how is this in here? So let me go back just a little bit in case we have to edit this. So um so I found out I was pregnant um the week after I was baptized, and then so April 25th I was baptized, and I was married on May 19th. So within like 3 weeks, we found out I was pregnant and we were married. So of course, I don't regret anything now. That was, of course, like what we felt was right. We were already dating, so we weren't arranged in the church. So I do feel like I don't regret that, but there was a pressure from the church. When you live in that environment and you feel like you want to be sinless, or you want to do what's right. So those actions were definitely like more based on the environment.
They were
Um,
heavily influenced.
mhm. Yeah, so I would say like that was um probably the what got me to not look at the red flags anymore and kind of just like go with whatever was being said to me. Um, After that time, I took a break, so I actually didn't go I didn't go for a couple months. But the deacon that was there, I don't know if you want me to say names.
Oh, bring them out. I love it.
Okay, so the deacon that baptized me, Deacon Murray baptized me, and he was transferred to I don't even know where. So when I kind of like took my break, like after I was baptized, there was a new deacon, Deacon Charquez, Deaconess. Um, I can't think of her name right now.
Shika.
Shika,
Shika.
thank you. Yes, yeah, speaking of Shika. So they were sent there at that time. And so
Wow.
when I it was after I was baptized. So it was kind of like after that whole difficult time I gave. Like I
Mm.
can tell you that Deacon Murray and Sister Domini will tell you it was like they thought I was not going to get baptized. Like I was very difficult. So after I was baptized, these new leaders come in. I was kind of a little bit more like accepting, you know. Yeah. So
Well,
we
yeah,
didn't
because that's
stay. Go ahead. No, no, ask. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say like you're kind of going into it. That was like the next question. Like, what was like the beginning of your experience? Like, what was the beginning experience
Hmm.
like in the cult?
Yeah. Yeah. And it was so strange because I feel like when I first came, they didn't really love bomb me, but these leaders did, the new
Mm.
ones. So it was more of like, oh, she's pregnant, like she wants to learn. And um I would say too, before the leadership changed, I would say that I definitely felt like because I was pregnant, um, that it was pushed that we were not gonna like meet our kids, So I didn't ever expect that I was going to meet my son. He's 9 now, but at that time I was baptized what they thought was like the year Jubilee. So we thought we were going to go to heaven like in September.
Yeah.
So in no way, like I wasn't due till December. We didn't do a baby shower. We didn't think of names. We didn't buy stuff. Like something really sad. There was another sister that was there, also pregnant, and well, actually probably good, because she left because of it. But the leader at the time like said, "Why are you thinking about baby names? Because we're going to be in heaven." So um yeah, I remember having conversations with my husband like this is my dream. Like I'm so excited to have this family, like, but can't believe this isn't going to happen. Like we didn't believe. We really thought we were going to be in heaven, right? Like the Jubilee thing. So
That's so crazy, Amy, because I feel like we'll talk more later, but like our stories are really similar and like also came in 2014 and my son's birthday, he was born August 2015. He's now 9. But I remember telling
mm,
my family that year as well, like he's not going to turn 1. I said that to my family and now
yeah,
he's
yeah.
9. Like we all really believed the year of Jubilee
Hmm.
we were going.
Shout
Yeah.
out,
No, yeah.
shout out to the Midwest, because I think that that is definitely 2015 is like trauma to anyone who was in the Midwest. We literally thought like that was it,
Mm,
and so just hearing you say that, it's
yeah.
Did it?
heartbreaking for both of you, that you guys even had to, think that way, and it's so
Hmm.
sad. Like you didn't even get to have, your baby shower and, think of baby names and, and because of that situation, and we all know how Pastor Daniel Park, when he teaches, he knows what he's doing, and he definitely
Hmm.
emphasized that point, and we all thought we were going to heaven at that time. um could you speak a little bit, like, so after that took place and your son was born, what was going through your mind after that, when September came and went and we were still here, what was going on through your mind?
Um, well, this is the difficult part. We transferred to Colorado Springs. So right before my son was born, we transferred from Pueblo to Colorado Springs. Um, and I would say that the leaders at that time were very aggressive. They're very, very aggressive. So um, I came in and I feel like we were totally just gaslit. And I was so new. I was so new that I feel like they, this is when I really feel at first I was kind of love bombed by them because I was so into prophecy. My notes were like so detailed. I would like go home, type them up, put images in them. I was that horrible one at the group meetings with the PowerPoint, you know.
Uh,
Yeah. You're into it.
I was
Facts.
so into it, and I feel
Same.
like even though I was into it, they now that I look back, they kind of used me to shame other members. You know, I see that now, like, oh look, she's was so like this. So I can only feel like this is a continuous pattern, is what I think. Like when members come in new, you know, like um they encourage the older members with it, but definitely I was that annoying geeky one with the slideshows and my notes, and I was all about the kids room, so I was super excited, but at the same time I would say that um there was a lot of red flags that were happening, of course, you know, like when I first came there. But um, I remember the sermons continuously being about like preach to 7 billion. Like um, in my understanding at the time, I felt like um, let me try to explain a little bit, but like the way we were taught was like the purpose of the new covenant was to bring us to Jesus, right? And then in this church, we're taught that Ansang Hong is Jesus, and we're led to mother, right? So then whatever mother gives is the new covenant. So
Yep.
I feel like in every single sermon, they kind of like in a way directed like that same pattern, you know, like this is your mission, then who is the one? What is the new covenant? Is to preach to 7 billion. Like I
Right.
honestly felt like not even Passover, right? Like not even like Passover wasn't even as important as preaching to 7 billion. And that's kind of what I felt was in like every sermon at that time. And I did feel like I had to, you know, like Passover wasn't enough. So at this point, now I have to preach, right? So that's when I started. I'm just had my son, so I'm not working, right? Um, so I start going during the day. So I would say like 2016, middle of 2016, I started to go um every day just because, you know, like what else did I have to do, you know? And that was the mission, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, they like
That's
got you. Yeah, it was like the year of Jubilee, right? It's ending, but oh wait, no. There's like a new mission. 2016 was
Mhm.
really heavy, like preach to 7 billion, establish all the churches and be church leaders. Like, and
Yes.
we were just preparing for the world to end, so we don't have anything going on in
Mhm.
life. We don't even have like jobs and like this is our whole life is the church. So like what's the next mission? And of course we're going to do it because everything else is non-existent. We left all our friends and
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know,
Yep, exactly.
honestly, like hearing you say that, Amy, about this is the first time that I heard someone put it that way. Because I've heard Passover and a lot of the stuff that they taught us, but never like focusing on like new covenant being preached to 7 billion. But that is true. And again, Marissa's point, is the reason why, is because
Mhm.
after atonement, when the end of the world didn't happen in 2015, they ran out of prophecy, so they had to come up with something on the fly. And since they already had
Mhm.
everybody on the edge of their seat, and like Marissa said, we had already left our jobs. I remember literally I quit my
Mhm.
job,
Same.
Me
yeah,
too.
like I would have been in a very good position right now, if I would have kept that job, but unfortunately I lost it, and everybody sold everything. Like Marissa said, we got rid of our friends. We threw everybody to the curb and everything. And all
Mhm.
we had left to do, I mean, they took advantage of it. Preach. What do you have
Mhm.
holding you back right now? Nothing. Go and preach. And we were out there preaching. We were, so yeah, I can definitely see that. Can what was that like though? How were you feeling during that time? Because I know that it had to be exhausting, because you never brought enough people. That's the one thing they always told us. It's like you're gonna be the person that owes 10,000 talents to mother, or
Mhm.
this or that. So take me a little bit through that. Like, how was that for you? Did you enjoy
Y-
preaching?
Um, yeah, it was definitely exhausting, but I did enjoy preaching. I enjoy teaching, like in general as a person. So, I don't necessarily like to stand in front of a big group of people, but I can do it. So I would definitely say like this was when, because I was so active, I would say active, but not just that. So at the time, my husband, he wasn't doing sermon books. So I was doing sermon books. My husband was not. Um, but we owned a house. And so the deaconess at that time and the missionary came and visited me while my husband was at work and said, "Hey, um, you've been given a blessing. Um, you have, a home that can be used. This kind of they really like um made me feel like the reason I was living in a house was so it could be used for the gospel work. Um, and I was all for it
Yeah.
Lost
because
in
you're
the
so
sauce.
lost. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
so lost. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm chosen, you know.
Yeah.
One fofo.
Okay. Yeah, one fofo.
That is exactly what Marissa was saying, was like, you are hearing in the educations, like the 144,000 are the ones who are house leaders. And I remember even thinking or hearing about the story of Abraham. Give us one. Is there two? Is there five that can be saved? Right? That story. So
Right.
it was like, if you're a leader, even if you have this many people in your location, then you can be saved and
God will
you'll,
save that city.
and God will save that city. So you definitely felt like, especially when it's presented to you, like, oh, how can you turn that down? At
Yeah.
at this point, you believe this is God, right? So how do you turn down God asking you to use your house, thinking that God is the one? But it's really the way they present it. And I can see now that I was the only one that had a house that was willing, So um, that was when everything kind of really turned. So
I have a
yeah,
question.
yeah.
Why did they want to use your house in the same city that there was a church, or is it two different cities?
Mm, yeah, it's like so close.
Hmm.
Um, but technically two cities.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so Colorado Springs, and then I lived in Fountain.
Okay.
So
I
Fountains.
remember you being
Mhm.
the, okay. I
Yeah.
remember. It was the Fountain House Church.
Yeah, we were in Fountain. So we were in Fountain, which was between Springs and Pueblo, or
Okay.
yeah, Colorado Springs and Pueblo. So it was kind of like that median church.
Yep.
Um, I think at the time they had a church also in Alamosa. It was
Yeah.
already there. So there was also before us, was a couple that had a house in Fountain too, before us. Um, I don't really remember them very well, but they were sent out there. And then, so I think this was like always on the mission again,
It was,
like,
yeah, on the pin. We had all had those big maps with like a pin
mm,
on where we wanted house churches.
mhm,
And I think I like that you pointed that out because, maybe like viewers viewing this would be like, why would you let two like people like ask you to do that with your house? Like, and take advantage of you. But like you said, like we think the leaders are like given by God, the mother, who's God.
mhm.
So like it's not just that we're listening to humans, but we think like those leaders are being used by God. So by saying no to them, you're saying no to God.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like, could you imagine? I mean, it gets worse after you say yes, and then
Right.
it's better to say no right away, to be
Right.
honest.
You know, that's Marissa, that's actually a great point because I remember them actually giving sermons about if you say no to a leader, you're essentially saying no to God. And when the Israelites said no to Moses, look what happened. Do you want the same thing to happen to you? Well, then you better listen
Mhm.
to your leaders. And so that is a very good point. And Amy, I got a question for you also. You mentioned that they came to you when your husband was at work, and so they're trying to influence you, when you're new, you're by yourself. So did you agree right away, and how'd your husband take it, and how was that whole ordeal?
Um, I would say that my husband was more like lost in the sauce in regards to like um doctrine, but he had no idea what was happening, in group meetings. Nothing, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he had no idea what it was about. He was just doctrine. So um he was a little bit okay, yeah, I decided for us. Say that, I kind of was like, we have to do this. I definitely like egged it on, and I can tell you that when I left and I looked back at that moment, I know they took advantage of me.
Yeah.
Like if he was there,
Yeah.
there would have been no way, but once I was able to be like, no, this is what we're gonna do, then now it's me convincing him. Now the church is putting me and him in a situation, right? Because how would I feel if he says no?
Right.
So,
And that
yeah,
that's very
yeah.
telling, Amy. I just want to point that out to the viewers that if they wouldn't have came to you the way that they did, you would have never have signed up for that organically. So it was
Mm-mm.
already like them orchestrating things behind the scenes, knowing that they
Mm-hmm.
could get to you and you would then in turn get to your husband, and that's
Mm-hmm.
so sneaky and conniving on their end. And this is how they work. This is what they do. They will single you out. They will try to put like friction between two people in order to get what they want, at the end of the day, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what they care about is the
Yeah.
numbers. And the leaders are going to get brownie points every time they establish another church. And I remember during that time, like Marissa said, even the board with the you wanted a house church here, here and here, but the leaders were competing against each other. I've mentioned before in other
Yes.
videos, I remember having flat screens in the Zion that had like a live updates of how many fruits people were bearing and where these
Yep.
house churches were being established. I mean, it was a crazy time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
But
do remember like the star chart,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, that was yuck. But so take me through. So you become a house church leader. You and your husband, and you guys are like new. How was that ordeal for you guys?
So, like I mentioned earlier, my husband, he didn't know all the sermon books. So it was like this hurry up and finish kind of ordeal. So he would like individually test to all the sermon books. So he within like 2 or 3 weeks met with the missionary so that he could be evaluated on them. Um, we only I don't even know if we kept third day. I don't think we kept any services at first. So at first, because it really is so close, like 25 minutes, 30 minutes away. So at first we would just go to the main church for service. Um, I would say maybe like a couple months or 6 months in, we started to keep third day there, but still Sabbath day was at the main church. So it was definitely like that church that was like so close that we went consistently and even preaching. So every day preaching, even though we had members that were in Fountain, we all drove to Colorado Springs to preach, even though we came back to Fountain. So we'd like,
Mm.
like you have to be in the church. I'm sorry, but I always think that was so funny. Like, why can't we just meet here? You know? But it
Right.
was like they really have like this sense of control, like in order to maintain or oversee the members, I guess. But I would say when it first began was the most horrible. Um, this is when in Colorado Springs we had the preaching, and we would be at the church, even though we were in the branch church, we were still in the main church, like until they left. So until like 2019. So from 20, I think we, I think it started in 2016, 2017 until 2019. We were in that location, that house. We moved to a different house after. So for 2 years, we were still going to the main church. And um, I would say those were probably the worst years of my experience there. Um, we had to be up, 5 a.m. to pray. And then after that, I have kids, so I had to bring my kids to school. And then after your kids go to school, then you're at a preaching meeting at 9 a.m. in the Colorado Springs church. We had to drive up there. After preaching, you have lunch. You don't get home until your kids are out of school. You're getting your kids out of school. And then by then, you're just getting your kids ready to turn around and be back at the church by 4:45. So, um, Colorado Springs had a lot of kids. We had a tremendous amount of kids. So, kids' schedule was like very important to them. So we had to be there at 4:45, and we could not leave until midnight. And we had a group meeting after that, of course. So I would say during those years, I was there all day till 2 a.m., and with kids. So dragging your kids out at 2 a.m. in the morning
On school night.
on a school night because you think it's for the kingdom of heaven.
Ab- Absolutely. I was there too.
Yeah,
Wow.
Because
yeah,
they make it their schedule, I'm guessing you were one of the children's teacher for the evenings.
yeah.
So other people who are moms, you know, are out preaching or doing this and that, and you have to be with your kids. because
Hmm.
they're gone
Right.
and
Mhm.
activities are happening until midnight. You feel this immense guilt if you're like, all right, I need to go and get my kids in at a bed at a decent bedtime, then you're guilted because it's, oh, you don't realize the blessing.
Right. Yeah. We had the group me at that time, and I remember I all the kids were gone. It was like 10:45. And I posted on the group, okay, I'm out for the night. All the kids are gone.
Yeah.
And I was pulled aside and rebuked and told not to put that on the group. You don't let people know that you left. You're assigned till midnight. You don't leave even if the kids aren't there. So, um, yeah, I would say like in the environment we were in, it was not only just like thought, but told. It was, I would say that very extreme. Even group meetings. There was a group meeting where a brother, he worked in the army and he left because, of course, they have to be home early. He left, and I'm sure he left on purpose. Like, I know there's a group meeting, but I'm tired. I'm gonna go. Well, they made us all stay there in the group, in the meeting room, and called him until he returned to have the meeting. Then we had a meeting and go home.
I'm so sorry. That is so terrible.
Hmm. Yeah,
This
I would say those years were extreme. Yeah.
and I know the leaders in Colorado Springs, so I've always heard that they were very strict. But just hearing you say that like makes me angry too because we all went through similar situations, but when you hear it again, it triggers all the emotions all over again. and
Yeah.
uh and for the people that the members that are watching this, because we talk to members that are coming out now, and I know things are changing because this cult was very adaptive, so when they hear people talking about them online, they're quick to change up their tactics. But just saying all that, I hope that the members that have been in since at least when you guys were in, when I was in, like, you guys can, if you guys are watching this, like, think about it. I mean, this is your life in that place, and you're micromanaged. You're literally told that you're scum, you're maggots, you don't deserve anything good. How dare we complain about wanting to go home to get some sleep? How dare we say that we want to spend some more time with our children? How dare we say that we want a little bit of privacy, or we need some time to ourselves because we're so stressed out, we're going through maybe something mentally or emotionally, or you're scared to ask to go to a funeral, you're scared to ask to go to a wedding, family reunions, what is that? Hanging out with friends, what is that? Like, the environment that they create is so toxic, and it takes a toll on all of us. And one thing that I've heard from so many members that come out of that place, it's like when you come out, unfortunately, there's most members come out with, like, some kind of mental issue, like whether it be insomnia, anxiety,
PTSD.
whatever. Yeah, like there's so many different things because of what we went through. I mean, and
Mhm.
and and it's just so sad. And I mean, even hearing you just tell your story is just bringing up so many different, emotions, and it's crazy. It is crazy because you were in for 10 years, right? So imagine, what does that do to somebody for 10 years, to constantly live like that, and let me ask you this, Amy. So when you come in the height of the Jubilee stuff, right? Like, we're going to heaven. And so, of course, we were in extra overdrive. But I mean, even after that, it didn't let up. So can you talk a little bit about, like, after Jubilee? Like, did you feel that it went down, or did it like rev back up?
I feel like it's always a new prophecy. So like 2020, um, 17, I felt like was preached to like 7 billion, like 2016, 2017. But then 2018 was Father's 100th birthday, right? So again, we're hearing prophecies. And I really feel like maybe that was the year that we received the most educations in Denver. Um, to explain that that there's so much being fulfilled that year. Yeah, so no, it didn't slow down. Not until I stepped down as a leader. No, no, I feel like they always have something, right? Like there's always a mission or there's always something that they're giving to you to make you focus on. And forget about what wasn't just fulfilled, you know. So most definitely I would feel like it didn't slow down. It didn't slow down. Yeah. Um,
What was your
Yes.
go ahead, Marissa, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say like you had the house church from 2017 to 2019 and you're going every day with the children. You're staying there till midnight. What started to change? Like when did you stop being a house church leader and like where was the shift?
So we didn't step down till 2021.
Oh
So
wow.
in 2019, um, deaconess, which they're not deaconess, they're like elders now, right? Quantanim, Elder David, Quantanim, Ceci, they left. They left Colorado Springs, and I think they were sent to somewhere in Texas.
I remember that.
Yeah, and then we got um, Joelle and Jennifer. Joelle and Jennifer. So before David and Ceci left, Ceci had a conversation with me. And she was like, I don't know if they're going to keep you as house leaders because you guys have kids. Um, Not only did she have like conversation with me, but she definitely had a conversation with many members to try to like, warn them because at this point, Colorado Springs had never had a leader before.
Right.
So, yeah. So they came, but we had to move out of the house we were in. So when the new leaders came, we had to get a new house. So we like temporarily lived with family and kept service in like members' houses that were in Fountain. So there's like 3 members that opened up their houses and we got to keep service there until we found a house. And then eventually we found a house and I would say we were barely there before COVID came. By the time by February, when they shut down, we were in that house for COVID. So no members there really at first. At first, yes, but after, no. So we had all of COVID, um, where they would still bring their like tithes and offerings, things like that. But COVID, I would say, was definitely I got pregnant again. So I got pregnant again, and after that time, we decided to step down. So that definitely um, opened up opportunity for us to like uh, not be there like in that obligation. But
Right.
it was so weird because we were like purposely looking for apartments so
Yeah.
that because you feel this pressure like if I get a house but you're not using it for a church, like you feel this like pressure. So we purposely found an apartment and it starts to make you think like that's why all the other members live in apartments, like maybe they don't want to be, I don't know. I don't know if that's true, but it's just, you never know. Like they do it on purpose, but yeah, so we moved there and I would say that was definitely the beginning of our way out. That was definitely like the start of us, like finding ourselves again. So, but um
Wow.
at that point I had that I had I was pregnant with my second child when we came in, but then I had another child in 20 he was born in 2018. And then this was my fourth child in 2020. So I had four boys, and I was like, no, we definitely cannot, like, we can't do this anymore. They're opening back up after COVID. Like, this house we had to move out of too. So, um, yeah, we were like, no, this is better to just not do this anymore, you know? So,
I don't blame you, especially, you're a mother of four, which is,
mm,
there's nothing wrong with that. But you already
mhm,
feel that guilt for that. And then you have this weight on your shoulders to where you have to do so much and dedicate so much every day till midnight. The anxiety we feel thinking, how am I going to possibly do that now with my new baby is
mhm. Yeah.
just no way.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not allowed to, like, even as a new mom, if you're giving too much time to your child instead of other kids, like, yeah, yeah. And when we moved to the larger, like, we moved from a smaller house to the larger one after the new leaders. And at that time, we started keeping service all independent. No longer we went, not for preaching, not for services. It was all independent when the new leaders came. But we were sent like a deaconess and her husband. And yeah, I would definitely say she made it very difficult. So like the house was very large and we all moved into a large bedroom together at first. Yeah, like six of us, right? We have triple bunk beds plus our bed, so that all the kids. And moved my kids into a separate bedroom in the house on the all the way upstairs. Members are like downstairs and lower. And she told me like she totally went off on me. Like, you're a sinner. How do you like this room should be used for the sanctuary? Like, you should be moving to the basement where, like it's an unfinished basement. They're like, you guys should move down there. Like, that's the sacrifice. Like, it was very difficult. And I would say, like, legally, your kids need a place. Like, it looks strange to live in a house that big and you're all in the basement. No
Yeah, what would that
couches.
look like to your parents if they decided to visit, right? Why are children in the creepy unfinished basement? You know,
Yeah.
like how dare you? Like, and then to them, the church leaders, they're like, how dare you think of your child and give him a good
Hmm.
room? Like, are you kidding me?
Right, you're idolizing. I would say that's definitely something I didn't mention from the beginning, but that is number one. That from the time I came in, my oldest son, they 100% try to make me feel like he's your idol. You know,
They do.
yeah, they separate you from them, and my oldest is a different dad. So it came to a point where he had an option, Well, not really. I didn't have to give him the option. I could have said, these are my days. You're not old enough yet. Um, but it became very difficult, because he was not welcomed there. They didn't treat him well. Um, yeah, so you don't want to be there, and he didn't want to be with me on my days because I'm going to be at the church, And so it definitely hindered that relationship, even to the point where he wasn't living with me anymore. And I let him choose that. I felt like definitely at that time I was like, why would you I couldn't argue. Why would you force somebody like that? We already know, like you can't make somebody to be there. So I felt like it was it was better. I'm really thankful that I did that. I'm really thankful. Even though it hurts because I feel like I couldn't be there as much. Um, he understands completely. So definitely has been like um he understands the situation of the church, but it's just kind of crazy to think about, like as a child, how they can be smart enough to know, hey, my mom's in something, and I'm just gonna bear with
Right.
her, like what patience, and love that he has, Yeah, so I definitely think like that to me is something that's super dangerous about the church when it comes to the relationship between a mom and their kids, because they try to preach like mother's love, you know, but you have these leaders that don't have kids. You have a lot of these um not just like church leaders, but like, unit leaders, group leaders. Like most people don't have kids, but um, the church preaches a certain kind of love, and it's not love. It is like so opposite of a mother love. And for those who aren't a parent, I feel like really like that's confusing to them. It's they're like really relearning love in the wrong way. So, um, that to me, the kid thing is like it's such a big ordeal. Um,
I completely agree. It's like,
mhm,
you know, I don't know if you noticed, Amy, but in the beginning of our time, I feel like the kids were, like you said, like your son wasn't treated well. It's almost like they're such a burden. And I feel like they've
mhm,
tried to clean up their act a lot with like the I like God books, now the children's material, as
mhm,
if like now they finally see that it's important, like which they are, but it wasn't always like that.
mhm,
And I feel like they've tried to clean up their act a lot, like in the later, like 2019, 2020, but still like that guilt and like that pressure not to idolize your child and put like who do you love more, your child or father, mother? Or like, is
mhm,
your child more important or the gospel work? It's
mhm.
still there.
Right. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Edgar.
I was just gonna say, like, again, hearing you say a lot of that stuff is triggering a lot of emotions in me that,
Bro,
yeah, like I hadn't even thought of in a while. But it is very, very sad to hear you, say what you were saying about your son. But I want to also tell you that, you know, I'm a parent, and I think even though you made a very difficult choice, I think it was the best decision, for the child, because from someone who had, my child was in since he was 3 years old, and all the way until pretty much, he was a teenager, almost an adult, and it definitely took a toll on him. And so even though it's hard, the fact that he was able to get out, because also they did, so like Marissa was saying, they treat children like second class citizens until they get to a certain age, usually, which is like
Mhm,
teenagers. Then they start valuing them a little bit more, because now we can start prepping you to do what we want you to do, which is
mhm,
essentially, go and establish your own church, or bring converts in. And so it's, I'm sad to hear you say that, but also at the same time, I think that it was good for your son. But it's also still doesn't take away the fact how wrong it is that the church caused that. Because if this is the perfect church, why does it hurt so many people, like families, they're just messing up people's entire lives. I mean, if you guys that are watching this, if you can't see how much pain the so-called true church has caused its members, I mean, I don't know how much evidence is enough evidence at this point, because I mean, the early church, when you think of the early church was being persecuted from the outside in. It seems like this church persecutes its own members, and it's so crazy, the amount of fear mongering and guilt tripping, and to the point to where even when you were talking about your house, the conditions they wanted you to have the crappiest place in your own house, and it's like, wait a second, people, this is my house. Like, so now I'm supposed to feel guilty for, okay, move me in the closet. Like, wait a second, bro, you don't pay bills here, you don't pay the mortgage. This is all me. What are you talking about? Mother's love. Mother lives in a big old mansion in South Korea. Like, she has an entire complex. Why don't you tell her to move into the closet, right? But oh no, it's it's just the irony with these people and the entitlement that they feel to like dictate over your life. Like, it's just crazy to me. Like, sitting back looking at it, I'm like, man, like, I wish that I could go back in time when I'm having one of these conversations with them. It would be totally different,
Totally different.
but yeah. But anyway, so Amy, could you tell us a little bit, like, about, let's get into like the red flags, like, because I know in being in the Midwest, I mean anywhere, World Mission Society, there's gonna be red flags everywhere. But this episode's special because we got that Midwest connect, and we know things were a little bit different here in the Midwest with the second coming. I mean Pastor Daniel Park. I'm sorry, I get confused because that's an inside joke. But anyway, yeah. So could you maybe share some of those red flags or any stories that stand out to you from your time in the cult?
Yeah. We can start with Pastor Daniel. Honestly, oh man, I would definitely say that the situation that happened with um the situation that happened with him, he gave us all those deep prophecies. I remember we went, I still can't remember the exact year we went to Estes Park, but I do remember we went to Estes Park for that education, right? We were supposed to like have fun, and then somebody got hurt, and
Yeah.
Daniel Park was like, "Oh, the devil, the devil doesn't want you to learn this information." I'm sorry, I have to stop laughing. Yes, he's like, the devil doesn't want you to learn this information, right? So we were we were only allowed to play tetherball.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, remember that?
I remember that too. Someone got hurt in like soccer being too competitive, and he was like,
Yeah.
"See?"
Oh,
Then we were like, right, in educations from like, oh, breakfast. So it was like 9 a.m. prayer or whatever morning prayer was at that time. And I guarantee you, we didn't get out until like what, 10, 11 at night. And that was like 3 days in a row. Yeah, right.
I feel like one
So
of the nights was till 2 a.m. or something.
yeah,
yeah.
probably later. And then we had to take our notes, remember, and like go remember them and memorize them until like maybe the third day when we were asked to not take notes or something, maybe. I don't know. You know,
Man.
Yeah.
I
Well,
would say, but what I remember learning was like a lot of stuff about the future, right? Like prophecies that they thought was gonna happen in the future. But we also learned, right, about how God the Mother fulfills prophecies. And I would say that if you're a part of the World Mission Society Church of God and you believe in God the Mother, then it's legitimate, right, to learn prophecies about God the mother. But, you know, what ended up happening is, right, some situation happened. I heard that, well, let's just all admit, right? We all felt a certain way. We all felt like we had like some special truth, right?
Hmm. We did.
And yeah, yeah. So it was
God.
definitely some it was definitely something where like members were calling, right? Other people from other regions and like saying, "Hey, guess what we learned?" And there is a story that I remember, but I don't know if it was a rumor at the time. You know, we don't get to talk about things really in the church, so who knows if this is a rumor or whatever, but I did hear that a brother left his family, like kids, wife, from another church, another state, and came to the Colorado area because he felt um, we had to learn these prophecies, right? So then what happened? We were like all called back to Denver. And then Pastor Daniel was like, so mother called, right? Mother called and she said, what do you think, I'm Hagar? Right? Like something like that, right? Meaning he was teaching something that went against what she taught, obviously. Um, but I guess in my understanding is we were learning about how she fulfilled prophecy. So that to me, I remember that being a red flag. Like, why would she say, don't teach this? And I think that many members thought that was a red flag. And our instinct, instead of going, oh, this isn't the truth, was, oh, we're just gonna remember this till we need it later on. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Right? Like, I don't know, maybe that was just like our trained response to, like, it seemed like why would you deny what is being taught, right? About, like, if this proves that you exist, then why are you saying don't preach it? It just, that's a red flag right there, you know? And I really felt a lot of the members really held on to it. And I kind of wonder if maybe we heard that in the education when we went back. If maybe past, if we all feel that same way, maybe he told us. Maybe he said there's going to be an appointed time.
Well,
Because
yeah, because
why?
yeah, because we were all kind of like we studied it and studied it and studied it and studied it, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, don't talk about it anymore. But it was all like this hush
Mhm.
hush, like we all know it's true, but like it's super like deep and secret that was just given to us for this time. So like let's tuck it away, and we're super special. We're
Mhm.
so lost in the sauce that like even if like God herself says knock it off, we're like, okay.
I like that you said that
Yeah, like
because that's
be,
true.
because remember, Pastor Daniel Park would tell us that mother speaks in parables. And so, how would we know? You know, she could be speaking in general to the crowds like Jesus did 2,000 years ago, but secretly to her disciples or 144,000, the message is different. And so,
Mhm.
unless you were really part of the, because I feel like sometimes members hear the members from the Midwest talk about these kind of things, and they're like, they're so foolish, they're so dumb. But I guarantee you that if you were to sit down with Pastor Daniel Park, whoever you
Mhm.
were, if you were like
Mhm.
really believing this stuff, you know, World Mission Society doctrine, and you were able to sit down with this man and have him study with you for like a week, oh, you'd be all in because and this is something that I heard even from the elders in Korea that have now left the World Mission Society. But I heard Pastor Daniel Park was the one who led the educations in South Korea. One of the reasons why a lot of the pastors didn't like him, including General Pastor. And so I'm not trying to stir the pot or, you know, add more controversy because God knows there's already a lot of controversy going on in Colorado right now with Daniel Park because I don't even know if to call him a pastor of Christ anymore. You know, who knows these days? But you
Elijah.
know, the thing is that you know the way that this man taught, like it was crazy and it made sense. The crazy part is that I don't know how this guy did it. I mean, obviously, I know the verses he used, I know his logic, I can see the flaws in it now, but in the moment, though he
Mhm.
preaches with such supreme confidence and like
Such
and I think,
conviction.
yes, such conviction. I think that also the fact that he like it got to a point where he's like, don't take notes. I think it's also strategic because you couldn't go back and like fact check him on some of the numbers he was throwing out or where he was getting those numbers from.
Mhm.
But at long story short, I mean, he did more justice to make like if it wasn't for him, I've talked to a lot of members from around the world, ex WMSCOG members who weren't so confident on the Mother God doctrine. But the Midwestern members, their faith was like on point because the
Mhm.
way Daniel Park made you believe that she was God, like he 1000% focused on her, how she was the reality of everything. I mean, good Lord, I was fearing for my life, like I thought this lady was, like everything. And then later we find out that, like Amy was saying, this guy gets, rebuked for the stuff that he's saying. And, again, just throwing it out there. I don't know if this is true or not, but something tells me that when she did call and, the decisions that she made to kind of push Daniel Park out the door, I wonder from everything that I'm hearing, how much of it does general pastor have to do with it? Because I honestly feel that, I've always said, I've been very open about this in my other videos, that I honestly feel general pastor, and even from the elders in Korea, like they also believe the same thing, that general pastor is the one who's quarterbacking this whole operation. She's just the voice, she's just the face of the organization, but the brains and the one who runs everything is general pastor. And so, it would almost make sense that General Pasha wouldn't want this kind of stuff, going, because look, from her point of view, how is it affecting her? It's just making more devout members. But General Pastor, I can see how it could affect him because members would be more, united to Pastor Daniel Park and have more
Mhm.
confidence in Pastor Daniel Park and more allegiance to Pastor Daniel Park than even the general pastor of the church. And I can see
Right.
where that kind of, but that's just my 2 cents, at the end of the day, only God knows the truth. But yeah, anyway, Amy, you got anything to add to that, or Marissa?
Go ahead, Amy.
Versus, um, you know, I think if I was to add anything to it, it would just be that um I think Marissa said it, but just to emphasize on it is that y- you you believe in God the Mother, but you're not listening to what she's saying. It really contradicts, one another. And I would say that really was something that when I was leaving, like when I decided to leave the organization, that was actually something I pondered on because it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that she says don't preach it. And then it doesn't make sense that people are not listening to her say don't preach it. If you believe she's God, but you're still doing it, but you think that you preaching it is going to save people, it doesn't make sense. You're disobeying God. So how would it work? So I just don't understand their reasoning with it all. I guess if I was just to say anything like on that topic in general, because I feel like this whole situation, members might be like freaking out, like um feeling that this is prophesied to happen, and
They do think
I,
that.
yeah, yeah. So, um, I guess it makes me think back to what happened when the church originally split, like what was happening. What were the members saying, and did um general pastor and Zong leave the same way that Pastor Daniel is, like, was the situation in the church very similar, you know? And that's just what makes me really want members to like step back and be like, oh, like if you're really thinking this is prophecy, well, let's talk about the first one,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
but
love
they
that you
don't know
point that
about.
out because it's like, when you look at like Korean cult genealogy, there's always been splits, but then you narrow down on
Hmm.
WMSCOG and it's like there was already a couple splits. And like now that that's happening, the members do think like, because I don't know about you guys, I think we all, after so long that mother kept saying like, stop preaching and believing what Daniel Park said. If we really believed in her, which we did, we were like, okay, just put it down.
Hmm.
But some never did.
Yeah.
And splits
Like,
happening, and it's like, they're like, oh, this is prophecy. And it's like, well, there's already been several splits. Not
Yeah.
that we all witnessed or went through, but now in America we are, which is crazy in the Midwest.
Yeah.
mhm,
And
mhm,
just imagine, like, I mean, obviously I don't care what Pastor Daniel Park is doing. I think it's actually pretty funny, because they're getting a taste of their own medicine, but kudos to him. I mean, but anyway, like, I mean, wouldn't it be crazy, like 20 years down the road the same thing happens to, his church, or, like, I just feel
mhm,
like I've always said that cults in general, like, after a certain amount of time, two things begin to happen. People, once the cult's been out there for so long and it starts to make their name, like put their name out there more people are going to hear about it, and more apologetics are going to come out on it. And I think when we first came into the church, this cult, compared to Seventh-day Adventists, to Mormons, to Jehovah's Witnesses, it's new. So there wasn't that much resources up until a few years ago. I mean, obviously there was
mhm,
the examining site, but like, compared to, so many, other cults that have like long lists of, apologetics and just people answering them, there wasn't much
mhm,
for the WMSCOG just a few years ago. And now we're starting to see that. And then the second thing that happens with cults after they've been around for a while is they begin to split, because there begins to be internal problems, frictions between these egomaniac leaders, you know what I mean? And so I'm not surprised that this happened. And I believe there's going to be more splits. You know what I mean? Like, just imagine,
mhm,
I hear, Pastor Daniel Parks already doing good, already receiving some money, So just who's to say that maybe a few years down the road, one of the pastors is like, well, look at Daniel Park, man. He's doing the thing. Maybe I want in a little bit on this. So I mean, it's something that's bound to happen. I mean, it's funny, but it's crazy. Like, it's crazy how things have evolved, and how, where they're at now, and how reactive this cold is, and just how, all the drama that's going on
mhm,
right now. And we're like just sitting back eating popcorn as ex-members. Like, we get the luxury of now sitting back and watching them go at it with each other. You know what I mean? Like, prophecy against prophecy or whatever, but anyway, Amy, so like, back to like the red flags, like, apart from Pastor Daniel Park, like, even within yourself, like, what can you share with us, like, what's some of the most difficult times that you had while you were in the cult, or that you've seen other members have while they were in the cult?
I think one thing in particular I really want to mention. When I first came in, when I was baptized, I was pregnant. So um, there was like comments about like not being able to meet him. There was that kind of situation. But um, when I was pregnant with my second son, which was in 2017, which actually at this point I had a so let me go back a little bit. I had a miscarriage. So after um My 9-year-old was born. I got pregnant shortly after, maybe like 4 months after. And I had a miscarriage. They said it was like something that, like some pregnancies are just bound for that to happen. I do kind of question if maybe like it was a high stress situation. But I lost the baby at just over 16 weeks. So I did have to have like a DNC. And when I had the DNC, the deaconess at the time still asked, I still had to go to the church for gospel work like that night. Um, I would definitely say like I remember her telling me like imagine what it feels like when m mother loses her children. Like um yeah, there was really no compassion. It was difficult, and I would say like even to this day I still haven't really grieved over like that kind of situation because it was just so like how do you in a cult, in that kind of environment, you're going to heaven. So if you're not pregnant, then that's God's will. But there was a sister that came up to me, and she was so frantic, and she was like, "Did you get an abortion?" And I was like, "No," like, because I didn't, I just lost the baby. But she was so concerned. And it was weird that she asked me, and it kind of made me feel like maybe I shouldn't have said anything. I didn't want anyone to get the wrong impression. Um, but then later it clicked why she asked. So when I was pregnant with my second son, this was in like 2018, 2017. He was born in 2018. When I found out I was pregnant, the deaconess, same deaconess, she came up to me and she asked, like, are you sure you want to have a baby? Like, do you think that it's going to be okay with the gospel work? And I was like, yeah, I'm having a baby. Like, if God gave me a baby, I don't believe in abortion. Like, people can choose what they choose, but I was told I could not have kids. So before I had my oldest, they told me you can't have kids. I have four now, but I now accept that when I have them, like if they told me at one point I can't, then why wouldn't I just do? Like this is a blessing? And so um after I told her no, another sister came up to me and told me, Sister, are you sure you want to keep the baby? I got an abortion. She told me she got an abortion. Um, like you still have time, it's better for the gospel work. And I told her no. Like, I'm not, like, that's not what I believe in. So not only did the leader come, but I can guarantee you that the leader sent that sister to try to convince me. And what was even more sad is that this sister was convincing me because she had been convinced to do such a thing. Um, so no, I
That's a
did
big
my
thing.
son, yeah, yeah. Like it was really like not just one but two. And at this time I am a house leader, so um they don't want me to have more kids. They don't, that's not important to them. But he's 7 now, so this was 7 years ago. 7 years ago that they did that. And after I wasn't treated right. Like I couldn't wear pregnancy clothes. I couldn't wear anything that made me look pregnant. I had to hide it. We went to educations in Denver and I was rebuked for like having my skirt up like above my belly. She's like, pull it down. Like I was in trouble because she didn't want any members to know that I was pregnant. Like I'm the house leader. I'm supposed to be her exam. Like I really feel like she tried to use me as her like example. So of course, like if your house leaders are not doing the best, then you're in a lot of trouble. So,
And
um,
just let me just stop you right there because that made me so angry just hearing you say all that. But I mean, where do these people get the gall? I mean, to even make the way they make it sound, and 100% they do that. That is
Mhm.
not something that's debatable. I've heard this story 1,000 times from so many different people all over the world. This is
Yep.
not a secret. So, if people that are hearing this, if you're new to the church, I'm sorry, but we're not sugarcoating anything. That is 100% said. It is
Mhm.
encouraged, and
Coerced.
yes,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
and just the fact, hearing you say how the doctors even told you were not able to have children, and that you were able to have them, and the fact that they try to make you feel bad for it. I mean, this is a blessing. And I mean, think about it. I mean, God forbid that you would have listened to them, right? Your son now, right? How much do you love him, Amy?
Oh, tremendously. Yeah.
Could you
I don't know.
imagine your life without him?
Never. Like I can't. Like that is so scary to me, to be honest. Like I worry about the one that I had no control over losing. Then like and I worry also about the ones that I feel I've the members I know. Like I have a weight on my heart for them. I really hope they have that weight on their heart because I have it. I think about it. I think about that sister. Like
Well, and
even
it just
in the
goes to
church you
show
do.
like how a the leader and the sister came up to you, like it's not just like one or two. Like that's not common to go up to people and talk like that and ask them to do that. That is so off the wall. Like
Hmm.
that just shows like how common it is. And it's
Hmm.
like Edgar was saying, like you were saying, it's a thing that
It's a
they
thing.
that so many people have been asked to do, have been coerced to do, and they cover it up and say they love families. And no, they maybe didn't force anybody's hand, but when you are lost in the sauce,
Right. But then they use like my family that I chose to keep after they didn't want me to to publish, to use. Like I would feel like my family was definitely broadcasted, but it's like, oh, we love families. Well, they wouldn't be here if it was up to you. But sure, you can put us on your websites. Like it's so false. It's
Yeah.
really like the
hypocritical.
families that you see, they either came in or they didn't listen to leadership, or they were not in a situation where they could be coerced to do it. Um, yeah, because
That's a
I
good
go ahead.
That's a good point. Like that really pisses me off because that is so true. They're so hypocritical. If the children that are in the pictures that they blast all over the internet, they're either, like you said, they came in that way or they didn't listen to the leadership. I think that's a very great point that you brought up, because if they had it their way, if the members listened to what these people teach, there wouldn't be any children, because again, the
Mm-mm.
children are treated as second class citizens. The children really, I mean, I've been out since 21, so I don't know. I'm pretty sure they've changed some things here and there, but even the other day I was going through some of my pictures and I found a picture of my son in the children's room with in a table, and the room looked dark, no TVs, just one big old window, one door, barely any toys. They're sitting in a circle in a table with chairs, and they have a piece of paper in front of them and like a pencil, and then like a Bible and a new song book. And I saw my son's face and it just broke my heart. I could see the side of his face because he looked so miserable, so bored, so sad, helpless. And I had him there, but again, it's one of those things where, they do this to us and then they say, well, you guys made the choice. Right, but it was your pressure that made us do a lot of the things that we did. And, I don't blame all the leaders in the church because I understand that they are only doing to us what was done to them. But I
Mhm.
blame the main leaders of the church who know that all this
Mhm.
is a scam and push this upon the members.
Mhm.
Um, but Amy, I just want to get to now the best part of your story. How did you get out of this crazy place? Please let
Well,
us know. How did you get out of this place?
okay, so I definitely think like once we stepped down, we lived in the apartment, that was an opportunity for us to start to do things more as a family, not be as obligated in the church. At this point, even though we stepped down, I still, my husband didn't really like, he wanted to work, he wanted to focus on those things, but I would say I still had this weird pressure, like, oh, I have to be back in leadership, So even though this was kind of like the opportunity for us to like leave, I still mentally was like in. So every day that I didn't make it to the church, or didn't participate in the activities, I was like totally stressed, totally depressed. And I would feel like that was like day after day, for those times. Um, but we eventually ended up getting an RV, and we lived full-time RV with the kids, and we traveled. I did homeschool. Um, we traveled like down to Georgia and Alabama area, but we were still in the church. So we were still keeping services third day, Sabbath day, driving the RV to the church when we
That's
were down
cool.
south. Yeah. So um the leaders in college, so at this time we're still like members of Colorado Springs, where we didn't transfer. We're still like members, but we're traveling. And so the leaders at this time, they were like totally against it. Okay, let's just say like they didn't want me to tell anybody that we were living in an RV. They're like, okay, because for one, me and my husband were like, we could totally have a Zion on the on the road.
That's tight.
That's
We could
awesome.
go preach, like, we could keep serving, like, when you're lost in the sauce and, you're trying to like make sense of what just happened, so, but I think like that was a good opportunity for us to just like finally like start to do our own thing, So it caught up to us. Obviously, I couldn't work at the same time and homeschooling and traveling. So we had to come back to Colorado. And things were difficult, like with our living situation at that point. We could have stayed in the RV, but um I can say there was some pressure from the church, like this is not sensible. You can't be there was sermons being delivered about like you can't be a leader if you travel between churches, and I wanted to be a leader. So there was some sort of like pressure to not live that life anymore and do this. But um unfortunately, we just couldn't stay in Colorado. So we ended up moving to Arizona to be with some family, live with some family for some time. And um, that's when I really started to notice the red flags. And let me mention, like before we left Colorado Springs Church, like I've seen leaders leave. I've seen members leave churches, right? And usually when they leave, it's not a big deal, right? Like maybe a letter or a card sometimes, but um they had the whole church come out and tell us goodbye. So on the last day that we were leaving, they all gave us gifts. Like the kids wrote letters to us, and then the whole church surprised us after last service in the multi-purpose area and gave us hugs and said, "We love you." Like it was like this really wonderful kind of feeling, but at the same time, I was always taught you don't do that. Like we were never supposed to like make a big deal when a leader left or when a member left. So it was definitely at
Right.
that moment felt like a little bit overwhelming. But we really connected with the members there. So I do feel that even though it was overwhelming, it seemed weird, it was genuine from the members. Um, so we come to Arizona and it's a cult and it's a different environment. So the red flags were like waving everywhere. I'm not a leader, and when you're in a new area and you're not a leader anymore, you don't get told nothing, right? Like, like I'm not a leader in Colorado Springs, but they know me. So I was still like in with what was happening. Oh, let me mention, before we came to Colorado Springs, I wanted to be a unit leader, right? So they had me as like a pre-unit leader. Um, and there was a sister that left the church, Esperanza. And
Yep.
I was put in charge of the members that she was visiting. So they asked me, like, hey, Esperanza, she left, you know, can there's these two sisters that are meeting with her at the gym, and we think that Esperanza is trying to deceive them. Can you figure out what's going on? So one of the sisters, I wasn't even going to try to convince her. She would do whatever she wants. Like I love her, but she is very like independent. And the other one, she still does what she wants, but at least she talked to me, and I just let her know if like at that moment you're lost in the sauce, and so it was like, well, if she tries to push the subject, then just let her know you can't do it, and if not, then you know that's cool. Of course, you don't understand why somebody's trying to share that information with you, right? So all this drama is happening like with her before I leave, right? So obviously I don't become the unit leader because I get transferred. Like, oh, that's over whatever I start at the new church is the new church, right? And so um I would say we're in Arizona now at this point, like a couple months, and I get in contact with one of the sisters, and now she's telling me that members are being put on house worship because of the pastor Daniel Park teachings. So this is like 2024, right? Like beginning of 2024. So I'm nosy. I'm like, okay, why? Like, I want to know what's happening because we in the Midwest almost felt like you had to know because it kind of felt like it had to do with prophecy, right? So if you feel like this is happening, you want to know what's going on. Now I'm in a different region and nobody's telling me anything. And when I mention it in the church, they're like, "Oh, put her somewhere and hide her because she's talking about Jubilee. Hide her
Yeah.
somewhere." So in Arizona, they're like, get her out.
They're like quarantine that thing.
Yeah.
That's gangrene.
Yeah, that's exactly like I can tell you that I feel like they did. They did in Arizona, like, once because I'm so like I had no idea. Let's just say I had no idea until you get there, and then they're like, "Oh, sister, we're not supposed to talk about that," and you're just like, "What? This is weird."
Like
So,
so,
so
I was in a cult inside of a cult. Like
yeah.
that's crazy.
So hold on, yeah, like that. It's true. So I would say like in Arizona, you just start no I was just noticing red flags. And then with the kids, they didn't have a thing as the kids. So from the time I got there, I was like, put me on the schedule. I'll be on the schedule. Like, that's fine. Well, they kept making like issues with my kids. Like they were like, "Oh, your kids are fighting," but they don't even have a schedule. They're not doing the I like they're not allowed to have toys in there. Still, 2024, they're not allowed to have too many toys in there. Like it's got to be empty. So, no, situations I feel like are still the same in the kids' room, right? So, um I kind of complain because they tell me you have to take your kids home between services. They can't stay in the kids' room. So I could tell already they were kind of messing with me. And so I was like, what? Okay, well, I'll just take them home. So the deaconess calls me and she's like, are you here? We're having a meeting about the kids, knowing that I left because she told me I'd take my kids. They have a meeting with the kids or with all the teachers. And pretty much they end up taking teachers off the schedule and making it seem like because they didn't speak English that they couldn't be on the schedule. So they had Spanish speaking or kids or teachers. My kids don't speak Spanish, but my kids were getting in trouble by the Spanish speaking teachers. And I just asked if my kids are going to get in trouble, then can you at least give them the same amount of opportunities in English as you did in Spanish. You said it to them twice in Spanish, then tell them twice in English. Like it only seems legitimate. And my kids don't speak Spanish. So they kind of made it look like I didn't want Spanish teachers in there. But it wasn't that. Like at all. It was literally just my kids are getting in trouble and they don't understand what you're saying. Like it has nothing to do with race. It's just like it didn't make sense that they were in trouble. And so that kind of like tipped me off in Arizona. I was pretty done. Um, and then there was a following Saturday or maybe the Saturday before I brought coffee. I left after morning service. My husband's there with the kids. I take the car, I go get coffee from Walmart to make for the group. Like instant, like the coffee that's in the bottle already, milk. I got caramel, like I got everything to make like homemade, like Starbucks in the group. Um, as I'm on my way back, my unit leader is calling me. Where are you? And I was like, I'll be right back. I went to go get stuff. So I walk into the church. I have a bag of like ice because it's iced coffees and all this stuff. And I go into the meeting and then I see my unit leader like look down and text. And then next thing you know, the deaconess is at the door. She's like, "Oh, can I talk to you?" Now, mind you, I'm like they don't know me, right? They don't really
Right,
know
you're
me in
new.
Arizona. Yeah, like yeah, maybe like 6 months or something, but still pretty new, right? Deaconess comes, opens the door, and she pulls me out and she was like, "Sister, where did you go?" I was like, "I went to Walmart. I got all this coffee stuff to make iced coffees for everyone." And she was like, "Oh, well, sister, you need to do that on preparation day. You shouldn't do that on Saturday." I was like, "Well, I needed offerings too. So, and we didn't have time yesterday. So I did it this morning." She's like, "Well, you left the kids here and we didn't know where you were." Well, my husband is here. I didn't leave my kids here. My husband is here to take care of the kids. And says, "Sister, at this Zion, the kids are your sin. You have to take care of the kids. If you leave, even if brother's here, you have to take them with her. You." So I said, "Okay, well, I'll just tell brother to go to the church, the store next time."
It's like that's their father.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
to just like they wanted to have this control. And I was so mad. And of course, my husband's like, why are you overreacting? Because you don't you don't want to have an attitude in the church. The people that are like throwing a fit and stuff or watched on the camera. And, like they knew they were irritating me. So that only kind of like opened up the like me to just start to question. Then I have to go get my son, my oldest son. He's gonna come spend the month in the summer, last summer. He said so I went to go get him. He's spending the summer with me. Um, they kind of gave me a difficulty. So they were like, didn't want to put me on the kid schedule. And then when I got on the kid schedule, nobody else wanted to do the kid schedule. And now I'm stuck, even though I have my son. So it was like, I don't know, it was so difficult at that time. So I kind of was like, man, I haven't seen him in so long. He's out here visiting. So it was like definitely like some tension. And he didn't want to come to the church, of course, you know. So um I brought him back, and I think like that moment really started to make me feel like there was something inside of me, like this is not right. But coincidentally, like 3 days before I bring him home, on your phone, how like you can swipe over and it has like news, like the news articles. There was an article about the documentary that Henry did. Harry.
Mm.
I can't remember his name, but the
Harry.
documentary, Harry. So there was a news article about how he made the documentary on my phone. And I was like, oh, snap. I'm gonna watch this, because something's going on. So I click on it and I watch the video and I see Esperanza. And I was like, oh my gosh, now I have to know, like, I gotta watch her video now. So I went to Great Light Studios and I watched her video, and it's like, as I'm watching it, I'm like, yeah, it's true. It's not clicking, of course, the first time. I'm still like, oh, I hope maybe she can overcome this, like, because we go through so many hard things in the church. Like, I feel like we just become insensitive, like
Yeah.
there's just a moment of being insensitive. So I do think like that first time I watched her video, my heart was like, I need to read that book. I need to read the book that An Sung Ho wrote about women's veils and God the Mother, right? I have to read it for myself because I got to defend it. I'm in Arizona. I don't trust these leaders. I'm not just going to go talk to them about all this drama because they're going to dismiss it, right? I already knew that. So I decided to read the book thinking I was going to defend it.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah, did that go? I bring my son home to Colorado, and had to stay for a few days before I get back. And I'm sitting in Colorado now. Now I'm away from my husband. Now, like you can't even I can't even watch this stuff around my husband, right? So at this point, like I felt like free game, like, oh, this is my opportunity to watch this, to read this. I'm away from him because I was way too scared to even look at it before I left. Like when he's sleeping, you just feel like you don't want to be wrong is all it is. And so I read the book, and within the first 5-10 minutes, like my entire world just like crashed. It was like I was in a glass ball and somebody just shattered it, like everything that I thought was reality was not reality. And I'd say like that was the craziest feeling ever. And I know, yeah. we've been through it, you know? And it's something that it was like, man, I don't want to wish this on anyone else, but it's necessary. Like if you're that lost in the sauce, then that imaginary world has to be broken. And I'd say that at that moment, when I realized all the abuse that I felt like I endured, that I put my family through, all the manipulation, all the lies, when I really felt how big of a scam it was, I just was like, you're done. You know, like you're emotionally, I was like, I was not present for a few days, you know, if not a week or two, like to truly, like it just seemed so heartbreaking. Like,
Like grieving almost.
yeah, like you, like really, like you, I was married in a way, you know, like, or if I found out my husband had a wife and kids, you know, like how would you feel? Like it was all a scam, it was all a lie. That's exactly what it was. It was just, it was it was difficult, I would say, at first when you find out, especially so unexpectedly. You know, like I went in like full force to defend the church, and then it was just like, oh snap, hold on. You're delusional if you what?
Yes. You're like, how? Well,
Oh.
and like you said, Amy, like you go in to defend it because this is something that like our God, the Father, wrote, yet we haven't fully read the whole thing ourselves. When other people have access to it and we want to defend it as believers, so we go and look at it to be able to defend it, and then you really see what he said that they never showed us. We're like,
Mhm.
what?
And then you're like, I'm not dumb, you know, but they try to make you seem dumb. Like that's not what he says. And you're just like, oh my gosh. Like it really makes you for a moment start to like they're gaslighting you. They gaslight in that moment, you know. Um yeah, I called a sister. I was supposed to go to service that night and I called this sister and I was like, never mind, don't come get me, you know. And she was like, you gotta call this other deaconess because she wanted to tell me about the Daniel Park prophecies. Like she was yes. So even in the moment that I was leaving, they were trying to convince me still to like study those, and that was going to help me understand. Yeah. Yeah. So
What?
yes. Yes. Like if you go and you st talk to her, if you study with her, she'll explain.
In Colorado, when you were dropping off your son.
Yeah, so in Colorado, it was yeah. Hmm. So they now this and get this, the one that she wanted me to go see is on house worship and has been for like over a year now. Yeah, so like it's like it was, and I was like, no, I already knew, nope, I'm not doing this. I was like, man, I just gotta binge watch. And I started just binge watching like Great Life Studios, listening to the podcast, and you know, Adam's videos recently, you know, finding the alternative, but that wasn't until later, you know, like I would really say like for those who are leaving now, that's really helpful. That would be really helpful to binge watch too for those things. But man, like yeah, I just was like I have to keep watching. Um, but you're still a little bit unsure, you know. So the day that I was supposed to go to service, I went and had lunch with my friend, one of my best friends. And I told her like 5 minutes before she was supposed to go back on her lunch break, hey, I was in a cult. I think it's a cult. And she right away after work was like, I'm coming to get you. You're not going to church. She took me out to eat dinner. And then we went to her house and we prayed. So this best friend, I've been friends with her since seventh grade. And she was somebody who was really involved with church with me when I was younger. So we've been best friends since then. Um, and they didn't really know what to do, like what did you do in that situation? So she just brought me there and we kind of like talked about it. And I was super paranoid. I was like, oh my gosh, they're gonna come find me.
Yeah, the paranoia is real.
Oh my gosh, it's really bad. I was like, oh my gosh, they're gonna know I'm talking about them. Like, I think they're spying on my phone. They know already. Like, I was so
Crazy.
freaked out, but I had to go back to Colorado. So this is my friend in Colorado. Oh, sorry, I had to go back to Arizona, but this is my friend in Colorado I was visiting while I was here. And so I go back to Arizona and they were on the phone with me every day. They were like, stop watching, videos or take a moment from the Bible, like they really kind of like helped me get through that like super triggering moment where you're just like, nope, maybe I'm wrong because it's so much easier to just be like, I don't want to tackle this. I don't want to look into it because it's like so much to like have to face. It's easier to just be like, you know. But they were very persistent, they were, and I just kept saying, I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure. Like I still at that point was like, like I knew I didn't want to, but you don't want to say it, like you don't want to admit like that. And so after like the first week or so, of her helping me, like, um, it got a little bit easier. I prayed. I opened the Bible and I asked God to send me a verse, to show me a verse. And I can't remember the one it is right now. I wish I wrote it down before the interview, but the verse explained about not worshiping idols, false gods. And I just started busting out crying. Like I got on my hands and my knees and I was like, oh my gosh, God, like I don't want to worship another God. Like to me, leaving was my fear of God. I left because I feared God. I knew you can't worship a false God. So there was no way I could go back into that place and worship that God, knowing it's not a real God, knowing that in my heart, God knew I knew it wasn't a real God. Um, so I told my kids like right away, and I prayed with them and I asked like God to forgive us, like right away when I found out. Um, but my husband was still in the church for a little bit. So he still went for a couple weeks. Thankfully, it was only like 2, 3 weeks. And then after that he said, okay, I think you're right. He saw some of the information about how they used to preach against African Americans, like going to heaven. My husband's African American, so he it was not okay to him, like once he saw that. And he was like, oh, I kind of remember it being like a little bit strange, but um so after that we left. It took like 2 or 3 weeks. I told them, I texted the deaconess and I said, you're not welcome at my house. Do not come visit. She was like, okay, but like, yeah, no, you're not welcome here. I put my boundaries up right away. I said I wasn't feeling well at first, which I was. At first, I did feel sick. I was like, nope, I'm sick and you're not welcome here. Do not come visit my house. And I made sure to repeat that every time I sent a message to them so that if they showed up, I could do what I needed to legally, or whatever. So, um, I would say like physically leaving was not difficult because I was in Arizona. So they left me alone. If I was in Colorado Springs, oh, they would have been at my door every single day. Like I already know. I know
Yeah.
already. They wouldn't have respected me saying that. Like someone would have found. Actually, as a matter of fact, My oldest was in middle school, and one of the sisters, I'm in Arizona, one of the sisters in Colorado Springs stops at his bus stop in the morning and says, "Hey, I heard your mom's not at the church anymore." An adult sister approaching a kid asking about my business. So he calls, and I was like, "Well, she didn't call me, so just tell her, I don't know, like, why would you not call me? Like, isn't that weird? You
That's
have the
weird.
audacity to go talk to my son, but you don't want to message another adult. Like, that really was like, man, you should think about how you're in a cult, because that was weird. Because I know she didn't mean it in a mean way, but I hope like they can see like that was uncomfortable, like really uncomfortable. Like, why are you fishing through my child about why I left? And
Right.
how did you guys even know in Colorado Springs that I left when I'm in Arizona? How did you guys know? I didn't tell them why we left. I just said I'm sick and I stopped coming. Like, how do you guys know? And in Georgia, my mother-in-law was told, like getting calls. Why did your daughter-in-law and son leave in Georgia? So they definitely communicate, and they felt enough to say to several churches that we've attended to not talk to us, hmm or to try to
Crazy
get a hold
work.
of us.
Crazy
Hmm.
work. Yeah, these people, when you need them, when you actually need the help, nowhere to be found. But don't leave or don't say nothing against them because they will get the whole WMSCOG on you quick. Information
Hmm.
travels quick in these kind of places. I mean, just ask Pastor Daniel Park. One minute he was on top of the world, next moment he got shipped out to Australia. Then
Yeah.
then somehow he came back as second coming Christ. So I mean, make it make sense. But anyway, that's a story for another day. Um,
Wow.
wow, what an amazing roller coaster of emotions, but what a beautiful story. Uh, I love how you came out of it, and it's just crazy. Marissa, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'm like, I really feel like it's like for all of us, especially who have been in like a decade, almost a decade, over a decade, like we go through so much while we're in there, but there's something that like happens. And then like there's finally like a click. And like I think everything lined up for you perfectly because who knows if you were in Colorado Springs when you were so close to those members for so long, that like everything just lined up for you so good where you're in
Hmm.
Arizona and they don't have that same connection to you as they did in Colorado
Hmm.
Springs. And it just goes to show like it was really meant to be. Like everything lined up
Hmm.
perfectly so you can leave at the
Yes.
right time.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that is
I'm
true.
so
And
happy
yeah,
that you're
Yeah.
out, that we're out. And like when I first got
enjoying
out, you were
life.
like one of the first people I talked to.
Yeah, that was so exciting, actually. I had just left like a little bit before, so yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, and it's so, I'd have to mention, like, it's so weird, kind of like when you know someone's leaving, it's so difficult to, like, I was crazy.
Yeah, me too.
Woo! But let's just say I am so thankful to everyone who endured that because it's like you are like, man, your whole world is like, what do you mean the world's not coming to an end? What do you mean there's no God the Mother? Oh my gosh, like it's just so grounding. It is like it is very it feels so much better. Like, I hear Edgar and all the other interviews, like once you leave, like there's nothing but uphill. Like, even though it was difficult, it was still 100 times better than a day being in there where you don't like you don't get a choice in there. You don't get to choose what you do, where you go. You don't even like and if you feel like you have some kind of free will and you're not participating in gospel, you're most likely have like depression and guilt on you every single day. Like the environment is toxic no matter what. So I am I'm really, really thankful that we're all out. Hopefully
Same.
more.
And like what you're mentioning kind of like leads to like the last question. Like, what is your advice for current members who are
Mm.
still in WMSCOG?
Number one, don't take abuse from nobody. You know, I number one advice is don't let anybody mistreat you. Set your boundaries. Um, don't think that the abuse that the church gives you is what you have to overcome to go to heaven. Like, I think that um that is emotionally number one. Like, I feel like the members who have a really good self-awareness put a boundary up, when they leave, it's gonna be easier for them because they weren't like they didn't take all those false teachings or accept so much gaslighting, you know. Um, I think if I give another advice for members, um, it would be to like um really listen, really listen to the members who have left. Um, Not just my interview, but there's other people's interviews, and we didn't even get into like probably like half the things that I could have explained. I'm sure like most people feel that way, you know, like there's so much, you know. And I think like just listening to people's interviews with like a clear mind, like really like if like this is your brother or sister, then and you love them and you're putting your God's teaching of loving, um, then um then you should treat those who have left the same way, you know, with that same compassion. Um, I think that might be, maybe that's it.
That's really, that's amazing that you say that too, because it's like these are people we were raised up with. Like
Mhm,
literally from like years and years, we raised our kids together. We ate meals together. We preached together. We did everything together for years. Now, do you really think that you know us? Do you really think all of a sudden like we're like really Satan or Judas? Like you know us. Like you're like listen to like what the members have to say who left.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, we're not the ones claiming to be second coming Christ after we left the church, right? So I mean, so anyway, yeah, those are great points. Because again, don't let them be a bully to you. I think that's very important, and listen to that voice inside yourself. I would say, because I feel like one thing that I find in common on a lot of these videos is at the end, you know what I mean? Like we all are like, man, if I would have seen the red flags, if I would have just picked up on them in the beginning. And I think it's because they teach us to suppress like our inner thoughts and our logic, but those
Mhm,
are God given. And we need to consider the stuff that goes on in that place, because obviously I'm very happy that we all made it out, but how many members, like even some of the people that we mentioned today, been in for 20 years, 30 years? And I mean, it's just sad. It really is. And so, just for anyone out
mhm,
there watching, like don't suppress that God-given, inner voice that's talking to you on the inside. If things aren't making sense, ask questions. There's always two sides to every story. So when Amy says listen to the ex-members really with the open heart, like when Marissa says you ate with us, you drank with us, you did all these things with us, and so it's open yourself up to hearing our side, because at the end of the day, if what we're saying is a lie, then no problem, you can just easily dismiss it. But if we're saying something that holds weight and we have receipts, then it's important for yourself, for you to listen. And so I really enjoyed this conversation today. thank you again, Amy, for doing this. It was great. You did an amazing job. Marissa, you also did a great job. Thank you for helping me co-host this thing. And yeah,
Absolutely.
just hey, I'll leave it to you guys. You guys have any last words?
I just want to thank you, Amy, for telling your story. And you're so strong, and you helped me when I got out. And I'm really happy that we are all out together, and that I have you and Edgar as still friends,
Yeah.
because there's still a
For sure.
community.
We're trauma bonded.
But
No, but yes, definitely. Like it almost feels like family. I always say this when I talk to an ex-member, like we're it's honestly it's kind of sad because like we're trauma bonded in a way, but
yeah.
at the same time, like our it's like we know each other because we know what we went through. We all went through the
Mhm.
same thing. And so it's awesome to I think this is gonna be the WMSCOG's downfall is now that members are coming out and realizing that there's a community out there,
Mhm.
and it's amazing. And so yeah, just that being said, thank you again to both of you, Amy, for sharing your story, and Marissa for helping co-host this thing. And so all the audience out there, hope that you found this video beneficial, and if you did, please smash that like button, comment, subscribe, and pass this video around. It really helps. Until next time, my name's Edgar, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Diffusing the WMSCOG.